Anybody? Anybody?
Hello,
Doing
hello.
good.
Hello,
Doing
I'm
good.
good.
Come on, there y'all go. The energy y'all get. The energy y'all get. The
You
energy
good?
y'all get. There y'all go. How y'all doing? I see y'all.
Good.
All right, awesome. So, like Tiffany just said, Tiffany just gave a nice little intro. Like I told her before as well, I'm here to sit there and provide y'all with some information. Definitely some things that we're going to talk about tonight will definitely be things that y'all probably already know of.
What?
I'm sorry. Okay, that was somebody that muted. Some things that y'all may already know of. And what I want to do is make sure that y'all leave here with some practical information that y'all can actually live your life right now and that y'all can put into place that y'all have, whether it's in your life, your personal life, or it's somewhere someone else's their life. And as y'all can see already, how our screen share is already showing what we about to get ready to talk about, right? So what we all know about is anxiety, right? And choose your life sentence. But however, before I do get started, I do want to sit there and just give a short little background like Tiffany had gave on my side. Um, Being in the military for 18 years, being a wife and being a mother as well, this has been a realm that I have been doing most of my life for the whole part of even before the military. And I never had something to actually think of the name of it, how I can actually play forth with it. And like, okay, until I start getting of an age and more knowledge to know, like, you know what, this is my calling. This is how things should be and how I should sit there and have impact on other people's lives. So now I have a name to it and I've been doing it for years. Definitely I'm in the mental performance coaching portion and transformations of the life. So when I talked to Tiffany, I told her, hey, I promise to sit there and provide y'all something that y'all can actually apply to your life. And giving y'all the greatest skill sets that help me grow and develop as an individual. So when you do leave out this Zoom call, you're going to be able to sit there and apply some of those things. Okay. All right. So first thing first, right? I know a lot of times when we sit there and we start talking about how we know certain things and we're circling around anxiety. So what I want you, I would like to encourage you to do is when y'all hear something that y'all have heard before, don't ask yourself or say to yourself, I have heard that before, but ask yourself, how well do I do that? Because there is a biggest gap that we have as human beings that in our lives is in between what we know and how we actually do it. So when we sit there and we're dealing with these particular emotions, ensure that, hey, okay, I know this particular area, I know this, but how are you applying that to your daily life? Okay. So again, like I said, I'm honored to sit there and be here. Um, on my end, I know how many people we have. We have quite a bit of people, so I like interaction. So if there is like one or two persons that's here that would like to sit there, introduce yourself, and what I would like it to be, provide like a strength that you have, right, or a strength that you are aware of and that you actually leverage, and then maybe two people, and then in the chat, everybody else sit there, put your name and what strength that you feel that you have. Like for instance, right, my name is Jada. And a strength that I have is connecting, right? I love connection. I love connecting people. I love connecting with people. I love balance and I love harmony. So those are some strengths that I know naturally that I sit there and I do. And I love it. It's not something that's, I'm adapted to. It's something that has been ingrained inside of me. So is there anybody want to share, announce yourself and your name and where you're from and also what strength that you have? Don't speak all at once. Don't speak all at once. Anybody?
Can you repeat the last part? You said your name, where you're
Yep,
from,
just
and
your
what?
just your name, where you from, and the strength that you know that you have.
Well, my name is Miss Shira Durden,
Okay.
and I live in the DMV area in Maryland. And a strength that I have is to keep going. What I've noticed in like the last 10 years, when I'm at my low, I don't realize that I'm low. So I keep going. And then when I look back on it, I'm like, oh, I was pretty low. Like energy being low, but I'm pushing through and pushing through. So I'm never in a down place where I'm like, oh God, life sucks. It's terrible. I just keep going and pushing through.
Good, good. I like that. Anybody else?
My name's Crystal, and I'm also from Maryland.
Okay.
What I would say my strength is I can make anybody laugh. It's just like a gift. And I think that's why a lot of my so-called friends, they call me when, they're going through something, because they like, if anybody can change the mood, it's Crystal. So I've been kind of blessed with that ability.
Awesome. And that's good. We all need some laughs. We need that comfort.
Amen.
Anybody else?
We
If
got
if
some.
y'all if y'all
Yeah,
if y'all camera shy or vocal shy, it's fine. Y'all write it in the chat. It's fine. So
we
the
got
whole
some.
purpose, even for this one, is that you write it down, right? And if you feel that you don't have the strength right now, try to figure out what strength you want, right? And say, hey, my name is Nisha Pitts, right? I'm from this place, and this is the strength I have. So it's power in writing that stuff down. So it's all inside that you feel when it's not just inside your head. You sit and you write it down as well. I'm sorry, Tiffany. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just reading the chat for you. Lori says from Virginia, truth telling, sense of humor, and curiosity. And Kim says staying positive and healthy.
Cool. What about you, Tiffany?
Oh,
What's one of your strengths?
strength I have. I think I'm blessed with a gift of encouragement. I can always help somebody see the brighter side of whatever they're going through. And so I'm the one that a lot of people kind of call on to help make sense of things and maybe see a different perspective. So I like to say I'm blessed with a gift of encouragement.
Awesome.
Yes, she is.
That's awesome. I do get that vibe as well, for sure. It shows. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna get to it, right? So I do like interaction, as y'all can already see. If y'all do feel that y'all can say, or y'all want to share some particular things, or you have questions, again, you have the chat to sit there and write down some questions. So first thing first, let's define what anxiety is. Let's talk about our friend or foe, because that's exactly what they are, right? Is a friend or foe. So anybody on their own, in their own summary, know what they feel anxiety is, that we all would like to share. Just one person is fine.
Can you repeat the question?
What is anxiety to you? Is it Cornelius?
Yep, you said it right.
Gotcha.
Um, if I could chime in, I would say anxiety is a sense of uncertainty with something that's coming or upcoming.
That is. How about you, Cornelius? You was gonna say something?
I guess anxiety for me would be being in a large room where I don't know anybody.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. All right, so what we're going to do is define anxiety, right? So anxiety is defined as a feeling of a worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an event or something that is uncertain outcomes, right? So anxiety is somewhat like a normal reaction that we have as human beings, that is as it initiates our flight or our fight response, right? And it keeps us alert for our surroundings. So it's like a survival type of emotion that we sit there and have, right? Y'all can agree to that, right? So it's normal reaction for us. So we all know that anxiety is going to happen. It's extremely important that you understand where it comes from, what those root causes are, as well as it's a difference between when you're experiencing anxiety or if it's a disorder, right? Clinically, proven, and there's different obstacles in the way that you can't sit there and actually fulfill those, or that fulfillment or that function of the anxiety, right? So that's when we start looking into disorders and things of that nature. But right now, what we're going to talk about is more of the feelings of anxiety and how we can capture those in those moments and how we can move forward from those particular areas. Sounds fair?
Yeah.
Sounds fair? All right, awesome. All right, so this is knowing that this is one of the predominantly experienced emotion. Anyone dealing with an obstacle, right, that's difficult to overcome is anything in life, right? So if we learn something new, if we trying to break out some old patterns that we have that's like could be extra daunting, right? So we've been used to doing things like for years, and all of a sudden there's a shift that needs to happen. That could be extra anxious, you could be extra stressful, and the anxiety level sit there and starts rising up all the way through, right? So in order for us to sit there and get that understanding of it so we can actually beat that emotion, because it's going to surface, right? So either you're going to sit there and make it your friend, or you're going to make it your foe. And I always sit there and say, like, okay, don't resist it, right? Be one with it, understanding where it's coming from and what those trigger points are, for you can actually sit there and be like, okay, this is about to get ready to happen. It's about to get ready to go down, right? So how can I sit here and stop it or control it, because we have control over it prior to it escalating to the next levels, right?
Hey, Jada, real quick, are you moving the slides?
Yeah, I am.
We still see that very first slide.
Right.
Okay.
I'm still the first one.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, we're good to go. So when I sit there and say, hey, choose your life sentence, right? Know the difference between feelings of anxiety and your disorder, right? So what I want y'all to do, if y'all driving, don't do it, of course. But if y'all have the ability to have a notepad and a pen, make sure you have something down for y'all can actually write down. So that's why I like the visual, for you can actually look and sit there and write some notes down. Because again, our mind is sharp. Our mind is sharp, but it's not sharper than pen and paper. Okay. So the quality of our lives is not determined by our needs, but rather by how we meet our needs, right? So take a minute, think about a recent situation where you have felt that you perceive to be anxiety, right? After you perceive this initial anxiety, it is seen to expand and cause you a higher levels of discomfort for you, right? And that's something that you think about as we sit there and start going through these slides, okay? All right, so when we start going here, so how are you processing your anxiety, right? So important information. So what I was talking to previously, so I wanted to bring to surface the awareness and just a recap on information that you already know, right? That you may already know. So it is important to learn the difference between the feelings of anxiety and a true anxiety disorder. So I just listed a few, however, there's pretty more that's out there as far as anxiety disorders, but a lot of people sit there and witness a lot of these particular ones and don't have a vocabulary to know, like, hey, which one is they feeling, right, in certain situations or certain experiences. So you have your generalized anxiety disorders, you have your post-traumatic stress disorders, your panic disorders, even your social anxiety disorders, which when I started learning about that, I'm like, man, is that a such thing, right? And it is a such thing that when you're amongst a group of people or outly, you have that social anxiety that you don't want to deal with other people, right? So there's a few key differences between what's considered being understand the difference between them. So when you're experiencing anxiety compared to the anxiety disorder, it includes like the intensity and the length of the time between those experiences, right? And I hope I'm not going too fast for you guys. And then you have the extent of the stressor. So with stressor, what's the extent of what's happening right then that sit there and elevate that particular anxiety? How does it impair your body? How does it impair your mind? Because those particular things that sit there and show face in different areas. And then you have your physical manifestation, right? So those particular ones is like key areas to understand and to know, like, which one are you feeling anxiety, or are you really going through a certain disorder that you can't sit there and encounter? But we don't even want to use that word disorder, right? Is an emotion that's normal that we just need to find out where it's coming from, what those root causes is. So the reality check is, right, life is stressful. Life is stressful. So I want y'all to write down these few questions, right? So we all know that positive thinking, it's not like a long-term solution, right? So in that very moment is where the strategy comes in, right? So number one is like recognizing it's about to go down. And that's my favorite saying with it, because it's about to go down, right? At that moment is where you have control of how it plays, how it gonna manifest in the life, and who's gonna benefit from that anxiety that you about to sit there and go through. So does feeling anxious or that fear, which is circling to that anxiety, does it help you to accomplish a goal? Does it meet a deadline for you? Or does it allow you to make that important decision in other ways that you wouldn't have made that decision, right? And then does it the feeling of anxious or the fear, does it actually immobilize you? Right. So it's like, if it stops you from tracks of for your emotional movement, does it stop you from forward direction that actually could be impossible? Right. So y'all have those two particular ones to like, okay, hey, is it helping me? Right. If it's not helping me, it's a blocker. Right. So you start thinking like, okay, well, I need to find out if my anxiety is really truly helping me, and how is that trickling down to that particular path, and then, or if it's blocking me from doing what I need to really truly do. And then as you sit there and you write these questions down, and you be truthful with yourself, be transparent, and even if you want, you can even have accountability partner, and have some, whatever you're going through, talk with them and sit there and be like, okay, have them hold you accountable for these particular things. And when it's getting ready to happen, you start understanding why it's happening, who's happening, why is it happening this particular way. So if you can, like, write, what is one negative self-belief you're holding on to, right? And what is one positive belief you could replace that with? That's something you don't have to answer, right? For me, but answer for yourself, because we all have these limiting beliefs and these self-beliefs that actually hold us down on growth, hold us down within our businesses, or hold us down with our families, that we can't sit there and we can't connect the way we want to connect with them. So with some of these questions, if anyone has some transparency, or y'all confident enough to say to the group, do anyone or two people want to share how does anxiety help you?
I can share.
Okay, Laurie.
Anxiety helps me by preparing. It makes me anxious. It makes me feel like I got to get to it now. Because some of the things I do is procrastinate. I kind of wait till the last minute to get shit done. So it's like, okay, you got to get that done. And so once I start feeling anxious about it, I'm ready to kind of set myself down and be prepared to do the work that I need to do.
That's good. That's good. Anybody else? Somebody unmuted somewhere. Anybody else want to share?
Hello, it's me. Yes,
Hey,
I just wanted to how you doing? I wanted to piggyback on her. That's what I wrote down too. It helps me in a positive way because it helps me and forces me to seek information. I get very anxious when I don't know something, and the moment that I can understand and process it, then that anxiety, comes down. So it helps me in that way. And then what I do for a living, it helps me to keep me safe. So
good. So it's functioning good for you, and it's functioning good for Lori as well. And those are particular areas to where, you realize it and you see that it's happening. Because for me, even if I'm talking to a whole lot of people, sometimes I sit there and be like, okay, I have an anxiousness going, and then my anxiety start going sometimes. Then I have to sit there and step out of myself and realize, hey, this is what's happening. And again, it's not about me. It's about me delivering something for the people. And I had to sit there and get out of myself with a lot of different things, even in business. If I want to sit there and progress in business, I can't stop not talking to people, right? So even with family. So there's a lot of propellers is what we call them, that is good. And we're gonna go ahead to the next slide, where we talk about what's the purposeful anxiety and stress, right? So the answers you wrote down, and some of the ones that wasn't able to sit there and mention, those would tell you if you process stress and anxiety as a propeller or as a blocker. Okay, so the propeller, again, is the type of anxiety usage that works with you. So it helps you to make a decision. It helps you to create a change. It takes action, right? So that usage of anxiety and stress is actually being used in a helpful way, right? And this is like helping you to get to that next level that you want to sit there and be, like we talked about. And those action steps for that will be like to find ways to actually keep you balanced, right? So even though it's a propeller, there is still ways that we can create more balance. We can actually be more reflective and be more centered in those decisions that we're making as we progress up in those levels. And then you have the very different from those who are getting blocked, right? Those who block themselves from relationships, those that block themselves from careers, their own creativity, their own desires and goals, or even the ability to connect with individuals. Those are when those anxieties are truly blockers in their life, that they can't even sit there and live the life that they truly want to sit there and feel. And every emotion, right, we have is a purpose and a function. So as we already know, anxiety has a purpose and has a function. So it's developed for a reason. And when we do that destructive emotional pattern, that's what occurs, right? So you ask yourself, right? So what does this emotion supposed to be doing for me right now? In that very moment, as you sit and you start getting this feeling, you're like, okay, what is it supposed to be doing? What is the output that's supposed to be happening for me sitting there going through this emotional pattern? And when you start realizing that, you start getting more familiar with yourself, you start getting more familiar with the people around you to say, okay, this is triggering that, right? So, because emotions is here to help us. It's here to sit there and distinguish and make our decisions. These are the things that it's supposed to do, not in a negative way, but it's supposed to sit there and help us function. Our anxiety is supposed to mobilize us, right? It's supposed to mobilize us when you, for you could be more effective in life, period. So when you are propelling or you're alerting, it's alerting you to do something that's some sort of action, you know that's being a propeller of your anxiety. Okay, so you don't want to sit there if your anxiety is blocking you, then that sensation of anxiety has gotten so intense and it's so overwhelming for you that you, instead of resolving things and being actually active, you actually start to retreat and start to get stuck in that emotion. And sometimes we call that like the crazy eight, right? You start getting into that one stuck emotion. You can't sit there and tend to get yourself out of it. But when you start realizing, hey, that's sit there, this is why it's happening, you can sit there and realize, okay, let me get myself out this crazy eight. And you staying in that realm. So how can we help getting unstuck, right? To be on a more responsive into a purposeful actions instead in our life and for others, right? So that's when we start going to the blocker in that particular area. So when we start looking at our personal leverage, right? So what could you be doing, right? So what could you do if you didn't have anxiety? Now, these are just important questions for you, right? What is the opposite of anxiety? What do you feel is the opposite of anxiety? Or without anxiety, what could you do? Right? There's beyond moving beyond anxiety. So you can imagine stopping feeling so anxious in certain ways that you can sit there and be like, okay, I can live my life this way. Or, examples would be like, would you have more time to solve problems or make some decisions or connect with people? What would you do to fill that void if that blocker, that anxiety blocker is away? If it's gone, what is it in your life that you can create? What do you feel that you can create, right? This could be like your compelling future that you sit there and truly sit there and feel like, okay, if I can sit there and get past this particular blocker, what in my life can fill that void? What energy can I feel to actually really get past that? Because anxiety tends to fill that void for people, whether it's good or bad. There's a need that's there and it fills a person up and it occupies their focus. So what are you focusing on? So when you are free of that focus, find out where you want to sit there and you want to put that other focus at, for it won't be something more negative, or however you sit there and you fit it, whether it's a blocker. Okay, did y'all write those questions down? If y'all haven't, I could keep going there just a little bit longer.
I need a moment. Yeah.
Okay.
Jada, while they are writing, got Elizabeth in the chat saying it sure propels her, and then Faye saying peace in anything.
Peace. So
Opposite?
far, say again, Tiff?
I was just answering saying what the opposite of her anxiety for her is peace, and without anxiety, what could you do? She's saying anything.
Do anything. And anxiety is going to be here for us. It's going to be here. Is this how you're going to use it, right? It's how it's going to control how your mind is going to like function it out to what's going to be exerted outly, because then we're going to start talking about like who's going to benefit from it. Who's benefiting from your anxiety, whether it's a propeller or whether it's a blocker? And that's a lot of things that we have to think about as well. So are we good for the next slide?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we're gonna go into create a calm mind, right? Now, these are some quick tools that we have at our fingertip. These are like resources that's already within us, right? That help us calm that storm before anything is up. So when we use these areas, we actually balance out our nervous system. Believe it or not, some people are like, okay, yeah, deep breaths. If you really take in deep breaths in certain areas at the right time, is that nervous system that is actually pounding you. It will actually decompress yourself as you sit there and you start going through it. You're connecting with yourself more. Your physical is being more relaxed. So when you're starting to take some deep breaths, like those really work. And then even getting connected with nature, right? So when you connect with nature, you sit there and you close your mind, you sit there and you start not worrying about the outside, because guess what? The outside, those external factors is the one that actually put more anxiety on us, because we're trying to figure out, what people think about us here, or how we sit here and go about this particular area here. Those are our external anxieties anyway, because when within your own self, rather it's internal, it could be definitely internal, but when you start really thinking about it, it's a lot of times it's people in family or anyone on outside that's actually causing those anxieties to actually intensify. So, when you're connected with nature, I love connecting with nature because I can go for a walk and I'm exercising at the same time. I'm sitting here and just breathing in the fresh air. It's all good. So do anyone do any of these type of things that's listed above right now? And then how does that feel when you're going through those particular rituals? Because that's what I call them, the rituals.
I do personally.
You do,
I
Robin?
suffer. Yes, I actually suffer from anxiety, and I'm in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
My therapy has scaled down some now that I know how to deal with it, but I probably use all of those things personally. And now just knowing that I deal with it, I know my triggers. So when I can feel myself get to a place where I feel overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
then I know to stop. Perfect example, and I meditate a lot. I recently passed my real estate exam, but I had so much. Thank you.
What?
You mute, Robin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go.
I had so much anxiety right before the exam, like crazy, and I went on YouTube, searched for a meditation that was specific for testing anxiety. So I went outside, took a walk in the parking lot of the place, and did my meditation, and it actually really helped, like bring me all the way back down so that I could focus enough to pass my test.
That's good. That's good because it works. And a lot of people, some people don't do it because they don't think it works, right? But if you truly sit there and train your body, train your mind, and sit there and do those, it definitely will sit there and work. Because these tools that you ain't got to pay for them, they like resources within ourselves that we need to sit there and counteract with, to sit there and make sure our own sanity is good. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I'm driving, I get anxiety. If I'm driving on the street, I'm fine. But once I get on the highway, it seems like it just kicks in, and I don't know what happens, but my foot, when it hits that accelerator, I'm like cruising at 10 miles per hour on the expressway. So what would cause that?
So, I had somebody that does that. They stayed in one area, they would not get an expressway at all. And we used to always sit to talk and like, okay, well, why is that happening? And it ranged from when she was younger, right? It was so many different things, some accidents that was happening that she was afraid of, that she wouldn't sit there and want to go any further than particular things. Even if you're going 10 miles per hour, there is something of your lifetime that you have experienced or that you don't want to happen. And it's like that worrisome of that future, like what could possibly happen. It could very well be, hey, this is why you're like, when you get here, as soon as you hit that accelerator, it's like, okay, I don't want to go any faster or any slower. But at the end of the day, you still got to get somewhere, right? So when you recognizing that, you just got to sit there and put some protection. And sometimes like take that deep breath, right? You're like, okay, all right, I need to get somewhere. make it as a propeller. I'm sure you do, right? Okay. Do you
Yeah,
put it as a,
definitely.
because you have to sit there and get past it, but it definitely stems from something that has happened prior to, like, it could be even childhood, that you have a belief in your mind that something is actually turning in that direction. Like, okay, you don't want to know what the outcome could sit there and be, so it's just worrisome to you. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that
Jada,
helps.
I have a question too.
Okay, Lori.
Do you think certain personalities are more prone to anxiety? And the reason why I say that is that my observation is that a lot of us in our own particular group here, we're pretty much go getters, and I would say we're risk takers. And it seems like a lot of folks have anxiety basically. And so
Mhm.
I think, I can only speak for myself that we have a lot on our plates because we undertake a lot, basically. And
Right.
so I'm wondering if a certain personality, risk takers or whatever, are more prone to anxiety. Thank you.
So Lori, for the knowledge that I have with personalities, right? Personality still derived from your values, and those genetically as well, right? So sometimes people genetically, or how they sit there and they had grew up, a lot of times they don't know certain ways, so it shows out differently. But within personalities, some personalities is strong. Like you said, some of them is stronger. They sit there and they recognize it quicker, right? And they sit there and they push through it. But you have some that's like very passive, that they can sit there and probably do something. But again, their personality is like, yeah, no, I don't want to sit there and do this, or I don't want to go that way. So it could sit there and put in a factor in it because they just so passive in their direction. Does that make sense? But that's something that you can sit there and you can build on. That's like a skill that you sit there and you can, like, okay, I know this is, within me. I'm my anxiety sitting there, and my personality is this, and I'm very passive. I don't sit there and say anything, or I don't want to shoot the ball, right? Because I'm scared, right? Of what everybody else is sitting there and saying. But you could be a real good ball player. But it all comes into like building that person up, even if their personality is that way. It's just something like genetically sometimes that's within them, that how they deal with things.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Laurie. All right, so I went to the next page, right? So anxiety isn't just mental, which we sit there and we discuss, right? So anxiety is not just a emotional issue. So it actually is a component of the body as well. So some of, like we mentioned, like some of that nervous energy that we get, some people need to like go on a special diet, right? Or exercise to express some of those emotions that comes out. So when you start looking into, um, ask yourself, like, how much caffeine do you drink? Right. So if someone is drinking so much caffeine and they're still tired, that caffeine is probably, you're probably on caffeine overload, right? And you probably draining your was it adrenal gland? Somebody could protect I can't remember the name of it, but the your
Adrenal
APR.
gland.
There you go. There you go. You be draining that, right? So there's different, when you start looking at how your body is functioning, like, not when you're exercising, you need to exercise or have that nervous energy to sit there and release some of that. Or you can even, like, with low blood sugar, right? So you start off, how often do you exercise, right? Do you crave sugar? Like, do you think you may have a hormone imbalance? Like, a lot of people sit there and don't even think of, hey man, something could be very imbalanced in my hormones, that maybe I do need to sit there and speak with someone on, licensed somewhere to be like, okay, hey, maybe, or a doctor, right? Like, hey, something hormonally is not balanced. So I can't even control my anxiety, or I can't control these particular emotions that's coming through. So how can I sit here and control these and have them check that out? That's something to truly check out, that people sit there and stray away from. And then how much sleep you get. And we already know insomnia, that all that stuff comes into play when we start thinking about, hey, are we even getting enough sleep, even as business owners, right? Like, hey, we always thinking, even in our sleep, we be thinking, waking up thinking, sometimes you got to try to simmer it all down where you can actually sit there and prioritize in between those particular hours. And then what time of day do you most have your anxiety and that you're anxious? Those right there signs would show you and tell you, like, okay, during this midday hour, right, I usually start feeling this way. why am I feeling this way during this time period? And journal it, write it down, because that's going to sit there and be your roadmap to understanding what's your root cause and how you can sit there and control those particular emotions. Yeah, anybody got any questions on this one? All right, we good to go? All right, so where we're gonna go here is emotions balance each other, right? So loving yourself, not saying no one don't love themselves, but when we're going through those particular times and those emotions, a lot of times we sit there and we battle with providing ourselves with the love and compassion that we need, because that is the antidote to most of the emotions that we have and the stress and anxiety that we have. So if you're in anxious moments, that's, you know, you're melting away with the pain and fear. So understanding that this can be a very tough thing, but to do it for it could be the only tool that you need, right? So sometimes you be like, man, I need this, I need that. No, sit there and have compassion for yourself, right? Have some love for yourself, that you know that whatever is happening right now, is sit there, come through in twofold. Because in those moments, that's when you need yourself the most. You can't sometimes depend on somebody else to provide you that, because that's where we start going into where people who's benefiting from your anxiety. And what if that person that you're pushing your anxiety on can't take it? And then you get more anxious and more anxious, and the anxiety starts to sit there and think of start making stories in your own mind, and it won't even, it'll linger on for days, for months, or what, and start going to the negative portion of like holding grudges or what, because you think someone's not there for you. So you have to sit there and really account for and be responsible for your own, before you can sit there and flourish on the outside. So of course, like when you're looking at here, it all depends on you, right? How you talk about Lori, it all depends on personalities as well. If you're passive and then you sit there, you'll go get her however you see fit. So are you a grounded person, right? Are you a caring person? Are you a giver? What kind of person, the personality that you are? So that same energy you give to other people, because most of us want to sit there and be that person of caring and being a person of giver, give that same energy to yourself. When you give that same energy to yourself, you sit there and you start flipping it, and it'll be in the same, right? So you want that. You don't want to sit there and be like, oh, you still can sit there and still give that person love, give that person care, but that same energy, keep it for yourself as well. And that's how you sit there and you make sure that you're showing your own self-love and compassion. And I'm deep on that, because a lot of times I can sit here and hate my own self sometimes, like, man, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that, because this person is affected by it. But you have to sit there and know how to comfort yourself. Okay.
And Jada, I would just like to piggyback on that.
Okay.
In that, I guess that's the perfect example that you say. I oftentimes will do that. If I'm doing something, I make a mistake, I will say, oh, you's a dumbass, Lori.
Mhm.
And then it's like, you believe what you tell yourself, basically. You think it's just a one-off little thing. But Mark has been saying it recently, guys. We've been hearing it. Would you punch yourself in the face? And
Right.
so, no, you wouldn't do that. So don't give yourself the negative self-talk. If you make a mistake, that's cool. Just go on with it and don't tell yourself these negative things about yourself.
I agree. That's exactly, because as soon as that story starts formulating in your head, like a good book is that, if y'all have even heard it, that Crucial Conversations book, that Crucial Conversations book will sit there and tell you a lot about yourself and a lot of gut wrenching things that you can sit there and be like, okay, I need to sit there and figure out myself first before I start blaming somebody else for particular things, or blaming myself for particular things, right? All right, so we're gonna go ahead on to the next slide. And this is right here, is finding the root cause, right? So the root cause, of course, is different for different people. We can't sit here and say, hey, this is little and this is little and this is big and this is big, right? Something that maybe seem like is very little to me or very little to Daryl or Lori, it could be very big for Tiffany. It could be very big for Faye. It could be very big for all y'all, right? So we can't sit here and judge somebody else's emotions or how they react to particular things. So we have to sit there understanding what is our root cause, right? What is the root cause for it? So understanding this will help you take the steps to improve your life, right? Believe it or not. So you're getting really specific with that anxiety and that fear that you sit and you have. So what are those patterns that you need to look for, right? What do they look like? the type of anxieties that's getting ready to surface. So you give an example, like you had anything that you have happened before, right? So when you find the cause, right? So some get anxiety, and I'm gonna read from the slide right now. So some get anxiety from what's in the future, right? So you think about the future and then you get worried, right? Some gets it from the past that they keep on replaying, right? It could be something very traumatic that has happened in the past that gives you that anxiety for the future also. And sometimes it could be a direct reflection of somebody else. So when you see someone, you start thinking of that particular relationship, that because it's in relation to people, that you start getting more of that root cause of that anxiety. So when you start figuring out, okay, which portion is this root cause? And it could be any of these. It could be a variety. It don't just have to be one of them. You could sit there and be like, okay, this is a root cause here. This is a root cause here, because you could have multiple ones, right? And then some of them you get from health concerns. You can sit there and talk to me today, and then God forbid something happened to me tomorrow, and my anxiety is raised all the way up because I have some concerns with my health, So it's different root causes to different people's emotions and their anxiety. Anybody have any questions on this slide? Everybody alive over there? Everybody getting it?
Yeah, we have some comments.
But I have a question for you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
I have a question for you in reference to what you just said. What if you are dealing with something that you can't identify what is the underlying cause? I know you mentioned before, the young lady, about childhood trauma or traumas, excuse me, in situations that may have taken place because she had an issue with driving on the highway. What if something is not so clear to you as to why it is occurring to you? Any pointers there that could help us?
So I think I have that on another slide, but just to answer that question, Faye, that like there is some particular, if you don't know exactly where it's coming from, what you do is, okay, when you feel that about to get ready to rise, at that very moment, either you write it down and you say, why is this happening? Right. And you look back, like find out where is that cause at? Because it could be someone said something to you and you like, okay, this just pissed me off. Right now it's starting to give you anxiousness because now you don't know what to sit there and how it's going to come about. So now it's like, okay, well, what do I need to sit there and do? So that's how you find out. If you don't know what the root cause is at that very moment, that's where you need to sit there and stop it in that track and actually like, okay, this is why this is happening. Because this person said, hey, I like Red Bull. This is just an example. And you like, nah, it's that in between where what you feel and how someone else it could be in that conversation that actually is heightening your anxiety, that you feel that you might do something in return or they might do something in return with you. So if you don't have the root cause, you definitely sit there and stop it in that track. Does that answer your question a little bit, Faye?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said 100%. I think for me, it was more so I had the same approach where I wrote down what was bothering me or what I thought was the root cause, and I wrote it down on a notepad. Mm-hmm. And then I went the extra step further, and I actually went to see a therapist just to figure out, well, okay, what the fuck is really going on? So let me go talk to someone and get to the bottom or get to the actual root cause of what caused it, and that helped tremendously. It helped me actually figure out what was going on, and then they also give you a lot of tools to help you get out of that too. So that's right.
Absolutely, I definitely co-sign that. Like therapy for me has been like amazing. I personally started therapy like right before the COVID hit. And I know my reaction to COVID probably would have been a little bit different. I don't even know if I would have found you all had I been in the same space that I was in last year, because like my anxiety and my depression kind of just took over how I was feeling on a daily basis, that I wasn't even myself anymore. But as a result of therapy, I just started pouring myself into other things. And yeah. So I anybody who's on the fence about therapy, I highly recommend it.
That's good, because a lot of times therapists sit there and help you out with those additional resources that you feel that you need that extra push with. But definitely, if you can find a root cause within yourself as well, because help is helping. It doesn't matter who you're getting that. Well, it does matter who you're getting the help from. But if there's someone that's helping you in those ways, that can sit there and be like, okay, hey, try this resource, or try this way. Maybe you try to read this book or something. It definitely helped. And you being transparent with your own self and saying, hey, this is the root cause. Like, it could be a family member that is a root cause, right? And you like, I know I love this person and this is not the root cause, but sometimes you just gotta be transparent with your own self. And if you want to share that with people, then you share it, because that's when you start going through your breakthrough and understanding how you can handle yourself with it.
Yeah, therapy, that for me, that shit was phenomenal, because that was like one of the only time in my life where I was able to be 100% transparent and 100% open with someone and just talk to them and be vulnerable. I tell my homeboys all the time, hey man, whatever you're going through, like, I mean, I know you got a support system with your wife or your fiance, your girlfriend, whoever, but they don't have the necessary tools to get you the help that you need. So you may want to, just think about going to see a therapist. And I tell them all the time to do it. And some of them have actually taken me up on that offer too. So yeah.
Yeah. We think of it and looking at our spouse or looking at that support system, but you got to think about it. A lot of times, if they're not real with you because they want to jeopardize their relationship with you, they're not going to really truly give you the trueness of it, or you take it completely different, right? So getting an unbiased person on outside, knowing that they are really truly for your transformation, then that's really good to sit there and have that outside source, that third party mediator in between to sit there and help you out.
Jada, I know we've spent a while on this slide, but I just want to scratch the surface a little bit more about anxiety, about the future. I think when I examine my anxiety, some aspects of it, there's a fear of success. It's about the future, and it can kind of stall your progress basically, because I'm waiting for perfection. I'm not going to launch something until I feel like it's perfect. It has to be perfect. And so it's like you know what I mean? And so I think Black and brown people are uniquely different in that we're told on a broad society level that we're not worthy. And so I think oftentimes we suffer from anxiety because of that fear. You kind of buy into what the greater society preaches to you basically. And so it's helpful, I think, again, like the folks have said, counseling, and then also self-help when you can. So thank you. I'll stop there.
That's good, Lori, for sure.
If I can chime in on that and I guess tap into what she's saying, it's actually something that I've had to deal with my little sister really recently, because she has this fear of excelling and always wanting to be perfect. Whereas me, I'm like risk averse. I don't care. I'll go out there, fail a couple times and use it as a lesson. But that's just something I picked up along the way. And I think that's something as a culture that we were, indoctrinated with, that, we have to be better than all that are out there. And we also are shown by the world that we're already starting behind the starting line. So, that's one of the things that keeps us a lot, from progressing future wise, because we're so caught up in the now and in the history that we tend to, shoot ourselves in the foot before the race even starts.
That's true. And especially if your sister younger.
Yeah, she's 10 years younger than me.
Yeah, so that goes into the personality, right? I'm sitting there when we talk with as far as with Tiffany as well, with the disc, right? Knowing that what drives her in that sense, and knowing how her personality sit there and exert outwardly and just provide her that challenge, right? Because that will cause some anxiety when it's not sitting there and being done. So if you sitting there implementing and integrating things for her to sit there and challenge yourself, live even more, that sit there and actually lower her anxiety a little bit more. And you sitting there being that coach for her too.
I don't know. I teach her how to deal with life like I learned how to swim. I just throw her in the pool and be like, I'm here if you stop breathing.
I mean, hey, that's why we need a mediator in between.
It's been working since.
Hey, it's good though. You know, sit there and you build your wings while you're flying. Hey, it
Yeah.
works. All right, you guys, I'm gonna go ahead on to this next one, right? So it's gonna go into the types of anxieties, right? Understanding the details of your anxieties. As we talked before, you know, is like from the previous slides, what the world considered this anxiety disorder. So I just wanted to touch on the types of feelings of anxiety. So not knowing when an anxiety attack is going to occur or is going to happen, right? So it could be very stressful when it's like in the top of when on top of when it occurs, right? So, but when we're with it and we don't resist it, like I mentioned in the beginning, it becomes one with us, right? So you won't have to fight against it. So this is like so many different types of anxiety. So it's important to know like your anxiety, right? It's important to know what that personality of your anxiety is because it's your own style and it has its own personality. So it's, hey, it's you, right? So how do you sit there and you want that to sit there and occur and work on your side? So what do you say to yourself, right? What does your body do in those particular moments? How do you sit, right? How do you stand? Those particular things within your body is going to show you and tell you how those particular types of anxiety is about to occur. Like so if I'm having anxiety, sometimes I could sit here and I could slump over, and that's me telling me like, okay, I need to sit there and stand firm because that's when my confidence start coming in. I could be a whole different person, still Jada, right? But I could still be that more confident person because I'm like, this anxiety is bringing me down, but I could realize like, hey, this is happening. Let me make this a propeller for myself and make it better for me that I can sit there and have that confidence that I need to sit there and go into a certain situation. And then, so this is right here will allow you to recognize your own physical cues, right? So if you know those physical cues, you know it's about to get ready to go on, right? Or you can stop it right where it's at. And this will also tell you what's happening right before so you can understand what that trigger is, right? So if you know something's about to get ready to happen, why is this getting ready to happen? Like we talked earlier, right? So that trigger that you sitting and you having, and you know it's about to happen, you could sit there and really take control of that and be really understanding and what leads up to your experiencing of that anxiety. It could sit there whenever how you control it, that's where it leads into. So recognize your body, recognize how it's moving, recognize if you feel you need to go get something to eat, you need to go use the bathroom, you know, those particular little body functions that you have that's happening, you be like, okay, this is about to happen. This is how I release it, or this is how it's going to continue fluctuating, right? So just understanding like how those particular things is going. Are they recurring memories or thoughts that you sit there and you're having? Is it sleep? Is it attacks brought on by a trigger, like we mentioned, or is it like random panic attacks? Right? You feel like you can't sit there and breathe, or you feel like something's happening. Like, why is that happening? And that's when we sit there and we talk that root cause. It would sit there and you like you're backwards planning in a sense. You're like, okay, this is why it's happening. And then you find that cause and you're like, okay, now let me get the path right to where I want to sit there and be when this anxiety or this emotion started to occur.
That I can speak on that. My like a year and some months ago, I went to the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack because my chest was hurting so bad, but it ended up being anxiety and a panic attack, and I didn't know that. So now I can literally feel my chest tighten up, and then it helps me to recognize. It's kind of become like my own regulator because now I kind
Mm-hmm.
of feel it, and then I can say, okay, I can't stop and say, what's going on? Something has me. I can feel that specific feeling in my chest. It's not the difference. It's the difference in heartburn or something else. I
Right.
know what that exact feeling feels like in my chest for me now. So I do have a very detailed physical representation of my anxiety, but I do try to use it now as a positive to say, okay, tighten up. What's going on? You got that feeling in your chest again. So
Right.
let's see what's going on around you.
Right. That's when you start being more aware of it, right? You start like, okay, this is about to happen because it's gonna happen. We cannot run from it because it's just it's a survival emotion for us. So it's just how you're gonna sit there and control it, how you're gonna use it, and how you're gonna subside when it's finished. Because you sit there, it's just all how you use it. Okay. All right, we go to the next slide. So the next slide is what's your anxiety personality, right? And again, these are all important notes to take down about your personality of your anxiety. So your point of reference in your anxiety, it holds a specific type of pattern So when you know there's a pattern that's there, whether it's on a different, like, again, like whether it's something in a relationship driven or if it's self-focused, it could be that combined with you're expressing it by giving out blame to individuals, or you're expressing it by taking in some type of guilt, and whatever it is, or it could, like I said, you could it replays of past or present thoughts and memories, or worries about the future events or your possibilities. So you want to stand those personalities and those patterns. Those patterns will sit there and help you give that particular ripple effect what's about to get ready to happen. So again, it's being aware of it, being aware of the situation, being aware of the surroundings that you are, to sit there and better help you at. Okay. Have y'all read through this slide right here? I don't know if y'all want to sit there and take a little notes on that or not. All right, well, we're gonna move on to the next slide. All right, so the ripple effect, right? So anxiety isn't just contained in one person, and this is what I've been talking throughout our whole conversations. It's shared, right? So we want to know how many other people gets the ripple effect of your anxiety. Rather, it's the propeller portion of your anxiety, or is the blocker, right? So it's like a systematic approach that you sit there and you have. So anxiety and behavior is like, it's a reinforcement. Either it's internally, like we mentioned, by meeting your needs, that you sit there and you feel that it's being met, or in a relationship that they are actually being served or responded to by someone, right? So how many other people does your anxiety affect, right? So who does that benefit from, who gets to benefit from your anxiety? Does someone get to be the rescuer, right? So that's fulfilling a need, because hey, maybe you got a spouse and your spouse like, you know what, baby, it's okay. Let me hug you and you feel okay. So that's fulfilling a need for you. So who gets hurt by the anxiety? Are you pushing blame to someone? Are you pushing blame or guilt to your own self? Like, who is the person who's getting the blame or the guilt for your anxiety? Is there a child that's involved? Because that's a ripple effect. When you start sitting there, your actions starting to be outwardly, and it's a child that's involved, and they watching every single bit of it, right? Or every single bit of someone else's anxiety that's enticing yours. And then you look at, does a spouse or a parent feel guilty about the anxious person? So do you feel like by you being extra anxious, or you fearing something, now are you feeling guilty that you're pressing through with that anxious with someone else? Are you pushing your energy to that person that now you're feeling guilty about it? Okay. So again, like when we sit there and talk about, there's sometimes people that get more anxious when the family ignores them, right? So people be getting so used to you having anxiety, or you having a certain type of emotion, and they sit there and like, okay, yeah, whatever. And they go into that thing, and then it's like, okay, I need y'all to pay attention to me, but they're not paying attention to, because they're so used to it. It's like, it's main thing to them. They're like, okay, they're going through this portion. Let her or him go into the room and do whatever. And that makes your anxiety even more. So how can you sit there and redirect those particular things, and knowing like, hey, I need help, help me out, while I'm going through this particular thing. I just need to sit there and be fulfilled at that particular time. Or you can sit there and just go into another room or deal with it within your own self, and then come back out fresh. Okay. And then we're going to go into the degrees of anxiety, right? So some people who have the ability to overcome their anxieties have the ability to recognize it and shift their focus immediately before it rises, right? And that's what we have talked about as well. So that's a skill that is worked on. Like, not everybody can sit there and be like, okay, this is what it is. This is like, okay, hey, I'm gonna push you over in the water, and I'm gonna let you swim, right? That's a skill that you're being worked on, right? So finding that antidote is important, because it's already a resource that's inside of you. So breaking the pattern could be like inserting some type of humor, or some type of funny noise, or some type of something on those lines to sit there to intentionally interrupt that cycle. So when you know what's about to happen after that anxiety, we can actually get a clue about maybe what's underneath that anxiety. So example could be like, if you have to feel really anxious for a while, so you can feel things are like unfair, or you want to get angry at something, that's something that you could get a good clue that, hey, there's a feeling that you want to feel, and that anxiety and that anxiousness is starting to flare up within you. Okay. So noting that, assigning that meaning, every person have two opposite sides of their anxiety. So the amount of anxiety a person experiences directly, it links to the ability to change their task and their focus. All right, guys. Hey, so you break that pattern. I know it'd be some anxiousness going, some anxiety going. So you break that pattern for a new healthy cycle. And when you realize in that healthy cycle, it start becoming a lifestyle for you. And you start recognizing it. So that self-awareness and being aware of what's going on is definitely crucial. All right, then we got some strategies just to take home. So helping you choose one thing in a day or a week that you need to do. So when you talk about swallow the frog, I'm not sure if anyone had heard about swallow the frog, but when you swallow the frog, it's like, okay, you're actually, whatever is the hardest thing you need to do that first thing in the morning, right? No distractions, let it be time so you won't have to have that urge to be overwhelmed or become overwhelmed when it's time to sit there and get in that deeper state of mind, right? Because some people sit there and get in that deeper state of mind. And like we talked about earlier, some people sit there and do it and like, hey, I get done quicker and faster, but some people can't. So if you prioritize what's important for you in the beginning, that you can sit there and make sure that you have time for it in the later in the week or later in that day, you won't feel overwhelmed when it's getting ready to happen. Then you be emotional presence, right? So when you or a person learn this, you actually be able to shift in your different states of feelings that are rapidly. So when you learn to go into another state of love and connection as well as peace, that's one of the biggest problems for someone who goes into stress or anxiety. They become and being overwhelmed. So it's like they're unable to change their state so quickly as it comes. So allowing them to build those feelings of being trapped or stuck, and they actually start getting terrified. So they actually have to build that skill to make sure that they are confident enough that they can sit there and control their own self. And being, again, compassionate for yourself, okay? So you focus and be present with that one emotion and then fluctuate from there for you to actually understand that feeling, okay? We're getting ready to sit there and close it on out soon. So I want to sit there and leave out with one of my mentors and coach at the Robert Madans Institute. So they use this real cool way of working with your anxiety and to understand the experience and to help ourselves and others, right? So because when people think about anxiety, we always want to put some type of blame on somebody else, right? Or put blame on what's causing it. So they end up coming up with the word culprits, right? So it's just a fun way to provide a quick reminder. And it goes like, for C, you coping tools for the anxiety symptoms, right? You have usefulness of the symptoms, like how is it being used? What is it? Is it that propeller or is it that blocker? What's the longevity and the duration of that attack or that feeling that you're feeling at that particular time? So when you're in that stage, that critical stage, you start using these different snapshots and you say, okay, this is what's happening here. I'm feeling this anxiety, and knowing the time, the ritual of the, for dealing with the stress and anxiety, the intensity of the anxiety symptoms, as well as the timing, right? I know a lot of people think about journaling and writing in the notes. Write it into your notes, map it out, because that's when you know like the hour of the day is happening, how many years it's been happening for you, and what's that trigger that's been keeping you holding you back from what you need to sit there and do. And then the strategy actions that will shift that anxiety. So if anybody want to write that down as far as the culprits of particular anxieties that you can sit there and snapshot for it. This right here is our last slide. So I want to, make sure y'all know, like we already know, like most people experience anxiety daily, right? So some are disabled by it while others can just ignore it, right? So just being conscious, some people can't ignore it and they have to sit there and have some type of tools and some type of things that they can take away from to help them out. So it is incredibly important to learn that there are differences in the severity of these anxieties, and everyone handles them differently. So anxiety is a very complicated topic, right? Because you can sit there and have that anxiety, or you can sit there and clinically not being diagnosed with something that you need extra help with. So just be aware and be safe and be in a safe environment, that wherever you're at, you can sit there and trust that process, trust that you have control over your emotions, and trust that, hey, there's exercises that you can sit there and do to push yourself even further where you at. Yeah, so the last slide I have here is just a thank you slide that I have my nice little picture. I'm sure y'all like it. No. So if there is any questions on what we have discussed in between, I am open to. I know we was pushing with time a little bit, so if I felt like I was rushing a little bit, I apologize. I know I want to be respectful of your time. So anybody have anything for me?
Do you have any tips on finding a therapist? Because what I've been hearing from a lot of Black people is it's hard to find a Black therapist because I guess everybody's doing it now, so it's hard to get in.
Yeah, so I have one of my we call her the trap therapist. So she's supposed to have been on the call tonight, but she's over in Colorado, so she had an engagement. But I don't have her information here, but I could definitely give it to Tiffany, and Tiffany can parse out her information as well. Yeah, so she does virtual as well, and she's pretty good as well on it. So yeah, I mean, help is helping. Wherever you can get that help from that can help you transform your life. Whether it's a coach, a therapist, whomever, it definitely helps. You know, it's someone outside of the family that can sit there and actually be truthful with you, and they actually have a goal to sit there and push you towards. This is definitely what's needed. Anybody got any other questions?
Thank you, Jada.
I have some information on, and thank you, Coach, for putting that in there as well. But through Clubhouse, I found some ladies as well, and I was trying to look through and find their Instagrams. When I find them, I'll put them in the Telegram chat as well.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, I thank y'all for having me tonight. It definitely was impactful for me. I hope it was impactful for you guys, and y'all was able to take away some things that I have mentioned, some stuff that y'all may have known already, but now is how are you using it? And definitely sit there, go through and use some of these techniques to sit there, rather with yourself or with other individuals in your life, sit there and have better connection with you guys and with yourself. I'm here if y'all need anything. I'm sure Tiffany can sit there, and my information is right there on the link if y'all want to link up as well. So any pointers y'all need, anything, so just let me know.
Appreciate you, Jada.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
I will stop my share. There you go. All right, blessings, blessings, blessings. All Anybody else got anything else, or everything is good? I'm looking at the chat right now.
Sean will be putting the recording in the Facebook and the Telegram for everybody as well. And anybody that is interested in the extreme coaching portion of it, you can hit me up on the side, both Jada and I.
Tiff, thanks so much for putting this together. I appreciate you.
No problem, no problem. Somebody coming in on the end. All right. So, well, if no other questions and everybody's good, everybody take a deep breath. You know, we got some blue going on tonight, and we can rest from that. I know we've been getting fed a whole bunch of information from Mark and all the other areas and from each other with everything going on, and just making sure we're working this thing inside out, and so that when we walk away, we can walk away peacefully. We can walk away healthily, and making sure that we are passing not just financial independence and freedom on to those around us, but emotional stability and wellness as well. So anybody else that has resources and access to anything with any more mental awareness and mental health, we're all open to it. I think we all need it. So appreciate y'all, and we're gonna wrap it up. And y'all never quiet, so see y'all in the chat.
Thank you. Thanks, Tiffany. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank